Hey there, and welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast. In today's message, I want to share with you 5 rules to eliminate negative thinking. Yes, negative thinking. I don't know if there are moments in life where you have some stinking thinking going on, as Zig Ziglar would say. I don't know if you find yourself ruminating or being extra hard on yourself. Whatever it is, all human beings from time to time have negative thinking. And I want to show you 5 rules, strategies, habits that you can use today to eliminate that negative thinking. Now, I don't know if you have a copy of my book. If you think you can, listen, I would encourage you to make this book a part of your success library. You see, I wrote this book in 2004. I wrote it at a time when my back was against the wall financially, and I ended up writing this book in the back seat of my car. In fact, I have a link down below in the description area where you can watch a video where I show you where I would write the book and the car I use that I would write it in and some other cool stuff in that video. If you're interested, you can go check it out. But I wrote this book, If You Think You Can, and within 3 months of it being published, it became a national bestseller. And then by the end of the first year, it had sold over 100,000 copies. And today it's in its 15th printing, and it's now sold in over 34 countries. The principles today still apply. Listen, if you have dreams and you have goals that you want to achieve, then I invite you to go wherever books are sold, get your copy, or you can go to our website, greatnesswithin.com, and you can get your copy there at a discount. All right, I encourage you to do it. The subtitle is 13 Laws That Govern the Performance of High Achievers. You want to be a high achiever? Then you got to make this book a part of your library. Okay, without any further ado, let's talk about the 5 rules to help you eliminate negative thinking. All right, here we go.
You already know. My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. Greatnesswithin.com. DJ Hoisington. Greatnesswithin.com.
I just got off the phone with my son, and as we were talking, he was talking about mastering his thinking. He was talking about, Dad, I always want to be that person that is cleansed from head to toe, that I'm in charge of my destiny, that I'm in charge of my thinking. And Dad, you've always said that you got to kill the monster when it's small. That is true. That is what I've always said. And so then we started to talk about it, and I started to go into my parent mode and share, hey, what are the things that you need to do to make sure throughout your life you are mastering your thinking and that you are, let's say, standing in holy places in terms of being the best person that you can be. And in order to do that, I wrote down, look at this, a bunch of notes as we were talking on the phone. I just had these thoughts come to me. He said, how do you eliminate negative thoughts? And by the way, he doesn't have a big problem with that or anything, so I'm not trying to suggest that, but we all have negative thoughts or useless thoughts, really, that pop in our head when we least expect it, and sometimes they don't make us feel good. The question is, what do I do about them? How do I eliminate the thoughts? Listen, in life, you're not totally going to eliminate the thoughts. It's just not going to happen. Thoughts will come in, they will come, they will go, right? You'll have these thoughts where you ruminate over and over and over and you can't get it off your mind. So I do have some thoughts for you. If you have a challenge, I saw on someone's post, they said, negative thinking kills. Eliminate all your negative thoughts. My belief is I don't think you can totally eliminate all the negative thoughts in your life. Now, that would be noble if you could, but I want to speak very real with you. Every human being from time to time has a negative thought that pops in their head. Some of those negative thoughts make us feel less as a human being, right? Depending on the thought and so forth. So we're all going to have them. Here's my thought, and it would be the same thought I would share with my kids, or I have shared with my kids, and that is this. What matters is what thoughts you entertain. That is critical. It's one thing to have a thought come in your head, but then move forward on your goals and get back on track and get focused, right? Right? And then it becomes insignificant. You move past it. But what some people do is they have a negative thought, and then what they want to do is they want to play with it. They want to internalize it. And there might be a time and a place for that to exhaust it to a point. But my thought is, how do you stop ruminating about that thought? And the one thing is, you could run that thought from beginning to end so that that thought is exhausted. But here's the problem with some people is they have a thought that they have run to the end and it keeps reoccurring itself. So what do you do? How do you break the cycle? I suggest that you do a couple things, and I wrote these down for my son. Number one, you've got to be filling your mind regularly with light, with intelligence. And I mean from a place of inspiration. I mean from a place of positivity. Listen, I understand the concept of, well, I just don't want to be an optimist. I don't know why you wouldn't want to be. You can be an optimist while still being able to see reality at the same time. But number one is you've got to be feeling. So my thought is, when's the last time you read a good book? One that would lift your spirits? Have you ever noticed driving down the road and you're having a bad day and you turn on the radio and all of a sudden you turn on the radio and boom, your favorite song comes on and you start humming along with it, and lo and behold, you don't even remember what that thought was or whatever that was stressing you out. Or at a minimum, you suspended it for a while. Okay, so disassociating is going to be really poignant. And there's a couple things I want you to keep in mind. So that's number one. You got to regularly be feeling light and truth into your mind, goodness into your mind, positive content into your mind. It has to be almost a study in a sense. It's got to be regular. We do a lot of work and leadership training and so forth, but that alone isn't going to help you as much as also the personal side. How are you becoming a better person as an individual? Number two, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have focus in your life. What are you moving toward 90% of the time? This is going to be critical. When you are idle or when you are bored, your brain is idle. Most of the time. When you're bored, your brain is idle. And did you know, teenagers, the biggest cause of teenage delinquency is boredom. Why? Because their brain is idle. Listen, when you have goals and you're moving toward things, your brain isn't idle. So you may jump off the path for a second, but because you're so focused on what you're working on, your goal is to get back right on that path again. For example, if you're driving a car 200 miles down the freeway and you see billboards that say, exit the freeway, exit the freeway, exit the freeway, going 200 miles an hour, could you even exit the freeway? I would submit to you that it'd be very difficult to do, right? 200 miles an hour and exiting without causing an accident or something would be hard to do. It's easier to exit the freeway if you're going 60 miles an hour. So when we think about this in the terms of life, are you going 60 miles an hour or are you going 200 miles an hour? Now, I suggest you pick up the pace and you go 200 miles an hour. And that does take into consideration the balance that you have to have in other areas and values of your life, like family, relationships, work, personal life, emotional health, right? Physical health and so forth. You got to keep all those balanced. But the key is have a plan that involves all those pieces, and then you're driving straight toward it and you're driving 200 miles an hour. It is difficult to exit the freeway driving 200 miles an hour. If you're slowing down and you're allowing your mind to become idle, it's easy to notice that sign and get distracted. And all of a sudden, I think I'll just go off the path for just a few minutes. And then all of a sudden, you get into this mode where it's hard to get back on to the freeway. Okay? So number one, regular learning of inspirational ideas and thoughts that can lift your spirits. That's going to be critical. Better yet, if it's foundational and truth-based and natural law-based, it will have a stronger impact to your soul. Just so you know that. Number two is have a purpose, that you're driving 200 miles toward? What are your goals? What is your passion? What are you putting all your focus into most of the time? Okay, you want to have that. Number 3 is when you have ruminating thoughts where they just keep happening over and over and over, and you just can't keep playing that image and that picture and those words in your mind over and over and over, then you've got to do this, and it will help you change you'll break the pattern of your thinking by doing this. Move your body. If you're sitting down in a chair and you're relaxing and all of a sudden your mind goes to this place and all of a sudden you start thinking about it and you can't get it off your mind and you just start going there and you go all the way through that story and you know that you've been to that story 10 other times and it's not helpful and it's not useful, you need to get yourself to a point where you're anchored the moment that story starts. You stand up, you clap your hands, you move, you do some jumping jacks, you get on the floor, you do some push-ups, you go out for a run, you do something, you move. When you move the body, it does affect the brain. If you wait for your brain to move your body, it probably won't happen as fast. You can't think yourself sometimes to these things. You can only do yourself toward making those changes. And so you've got to move. You got to get up and move. Move the body will disrupt the thinking pattern, right? And so that goes to a couple areas like disassociate from the thought, question the thought, and dispute the thought, right? There comes a point where maybe that thought is you do need to run it to an end, but your goal is to crush it. So you run that movie all the way to the end, and then you turn around and you say, okay, that's stupid. I'm not going to think that way anymore. That doesn't make sense. I just saw the end result of that in my imagination. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve others. I'm not going to think that way anymore, right? And here's why it doesn't make sense. Here is the evidence that goes against why in the past I've believed in that story. And you go through the different evidences, you focus on the negative aspects of it, and all of a sudden, that story will become a story of disgust in your system. Therefore, you don't want to go there anymore. It just doesn't serve you. You've moved past it, right? And then you get on that path and you go 200 miles an hour. And then the last thing is that I say here, number 4, is in the end, you've got to take total ownership and responsibility for your life. All right, if you have a pattern of thinking that's not healthy, hey, use these principles, begin to make a change. And I think when you start putting your life in a place of living with a sense of purpose, you don't have time to think about those negative thoughts. You don't have time to think about the negative things that people have said to you or done to you when you're living with purpose. So get back to that purpose and get on that path. And then at times, yes, you need to disassociate for a time period, suspend for a time period, but maybe you do need to go in, and I would put a time clock on it and only decide to be there for a certain time. Go into that story and write down all the cons of why that story is not true and how it makes you feel and how it's not worth hanging on that story anymore. And then close your eyes and internalize that end result. And then get up and move your body. And you'll begin to change that natural thought process. In the end, you don't want to win, as my son said, for a season. You want that win and that winning strategy to work your entire life. And so if you don't master your mind, life will take over you. Garbage in, garbage out. Okay? Listen, it's my joy and hope to provide you with resources that can help take your life to the next level. Now, if you have any thoughts around what I said in terms of this video, or you need clarification, that's okay, right? I look at the comments, make sure that you put them down below, and I'd be happy to respond and share, and maybe there's some new insights that I could share that could help you get to that next level, okay? Master your thinking. Go make it happen. Remember, you have greatness within.